Alright, let's look at Chapter 3, Section 7, homework. Question number 1. Use a truth table to determine whether the symbolic form of the argument is valid or invalid. Remember, in order to be valid, all of the last column has to be true, has to be a tautology. If any one of them is false, then it's an invalid statement. So let S be the statement. If P, then Q, and if Q, then P, and Q, then P, and Q. We have to prove that. So let's look at this. Let's convert this, do this on a scratch paper. We need a lot more room because we have to create a truth table. So, number 1. If P, then Q, and if Q, then P, and Q, then P or Q. So these are your premises. This is your conclusion. This is inside the first parenthesis, so that's your premise 1 and your premise 2. So let's look at both of these. That's why it says if P, then Q, and if Q, then P, and Q, then P or Q. That's what it's saying. We only have 2 letters, so our truth table will only have P and Q. We got a lot of writing. Possible outcomes: true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. So look at the first premise. We have to build that one. So let's look at the first condition. If P, then Q. Remember, the conditional is the valley. True's up here, false is down here. As long as you stay the same or go up, that's true. The only time it's bad is if you start high and low. Like in business. As long as you break even, you're doing good. If you go from nothing to a lot, that's good. But if you go from a lot to a little, that's bad. That's the only false one. So, true, true, staying the same, true. True, false, going the wrong direction, so it's false. False, true, increasing. False, false, stays the same. That's the first part. Now we do the other part. If Q, then P. True to true. False to true, that's going up. True to false, that's going down. False to false, that stays the same. So here we have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Reason being precise, I don't want to write all that much. So what we're going to do now, we have, that's the first part, that's column 3, that's column 4. So we have to put together columns 3 and 4. So we're looking at these two with the AND statement. Remember, the AND statement is that single pipe with the 2 shutoff valves. Open, open, water goes through. Closed, open, no water. Open, closed, no water. Open, open, water goes through. So that is the first condition. Let's call that column 5. We have Q here. So now we have to build this entire. We have column 5 and column 2. This is building the entire premise 1 and premise 2. This is premise 1. This is premise 2. So we're doing 5 and 2. True and true. True. False and false. False. False and true. False. True and false. False. So that gives us a true statement of the premises. Premise 1 and premise 2. Let's build this one. The conclusion. P or Q. That's columns 1 and column 2. It's an or statement, so or is that you have 2 pipes. If either of these shut-off valves are open, then water comes through. So true and true is true. True and false is true. False and true is true. False and false is false. So we take your premises, which is column 6, and does that equal our conclusion, column 7? If then. If true, then true, true. If false, then true, true. If false, then true, true. False and false, true. So since these are all true, it's a valid statement. And it's all true. No, that one has false, that one has a false. So it has to be B, and it is a valid statement. All right. Let's look at this one. We have P, Q, R. We have 3 elements. So 2 to the power 3 means we have 8 rows. I'll try to squeeze it on here. P, Q, R. So we first do these 2. True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. And these could all 4 be true. Now we're going to look at the false side of these 4. It could be true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. So you see how it builds up as 1 T, 1 F, 2 T's, 2 F's, 4 T's, 4 F's. So every extra element we have, we double it. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2, you'd have 8 trues, 8 falses. So the first thing we're going to do is not P. So we have false, 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 true, 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 true. Not P and Q. So false and true is false. False and true is false. False and false is false. False, true and true is true. True and true is true. True and false is false. Now we have to do the Q by conditional R. So the only way Q and R, only way it's true is if they're both the same. Q and R, so it's true and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and false is true. True and true is true, true and false, false and true, false and false. So we have to take the two premises and put them together. What we have to do, we have to take premise 1 and premise 2. Does that equal the conclusion? So here's premise 1, there's premise 2, so we have to take the AND of those. Not P and Q and Q bidirectional R. So we look at these two. Again, it's an AND, so they both have to be true. It's a single column. True, false and true is false, I'm sorry. False and false is false, false and false is false, false and true is false, true and true is true, true and false is false, false and false is false, false and true is false. Now we go to conclusion. We have to create P and R. P and R. So true and true is true, true and false is false, true and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and false is false, false and true is false, false and false is false. Remember, AND is that single pipe. So now we take the premises and see if it reaches our conclusion. So we take this column, that's this one, and then that's our conclusion. If false, then true. That's getting better, so it's true. False then false, that's true. False and true is true. False and false is true. True and false is false. False and false is true. False and false is true. False and false is true. All because of that one. Number 2 is invalid. All that work. So here's our premise 1, premise 2, and our conclusion. What we have to do is we have to take premise 1 and premise 2 as our if statement and see if it makes the conclusion. We only have 2 letters, so 2 to the power 2. We have 4 rows. P, Q. So it's true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. So I could do the first condition. P or Q, true or true, that's a double pipe one. If either is open, the whole thing's open. That's premise 1. Now we have to find not P, but we have to try to build the second statement. Not P is false. Not true is false. Not false is true. Not false is true. So we have not P or Q. So not P or Q. If either of them true, it's true. False and false is false. True and true is true. True and false is true. That's inside. Now we take the negation of that statement, of that column. So opposite of these, it's going to be false, true, false, false. That's our second premise. Now we have to do not Q, check out the conclusion. So it's opposite of the Q column. There's a conclusion. So we have to take both of these, premise 1 and premise 2. True and false is false. True and true is true. True and false is false. False and false is false. Now we take our the column we just did, and do a conditional. So we take this column and that. So if this, then this. If F, then F. True. True, then true. No. If false and false. Remember, the if is that valley. As long as they're the same or getting better, it's true. False and false is true. True and true is true. False and false is true. False and true is true. So number 3, since they're all, it's a tautology, is a valid statement. Let's do the same thing. We have P and Q, so we have 2 elements. We have 4 rows. This is premise 1, premise 2, and our conclusion. PQ. We have true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. So the first thing we have to check is if P, then Q. True and true is true. True and false is false. False and true is true. False and false is true. Remember, the if then is that valley. As long as you're going up or staying the same, it's good. It's true. So that's our premise 1. Our premise 2 is not Q. So false, true, false, true. Now we have to look at our conclusion. Not P. So it's false, false, true, true. Let's put them all together. Well, we have to do this one first. We have to take the premise 1 and premise 2. So this one and this one, we have to take the and statement of these two. True and false is false. False and true is false. False and false is false. False and true is false. True and true is true. So now we're going to take this and that. We're going to do a conditional. So premise 1 and premise 2. If that, then not be the conclusion. So again, it's the value. So if it, as long as it goes up or stays the same, false and false is true. False and false is true. False and true is true. True and true is true. So it's a valid statement. Let's look at the last 3 here. P PQR. We have 8. We have 3 elements, so we have 8 rows. Well, I think we can do it. I'll have to write really small. PQR. So we can do the innermost, so it's true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. I don't know if I can. I have to repeat it. It's too big. So let's go to scratch paper. Number 5. We have PQR. There. I want to put my pencil in. So we have true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. That is when this one is true. Repeat these. True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. That's when the P is all false. So the first thing we have to do, this is the equation that we have to do. If P then Q, and if Q then R, P then R. So we have to do this conditional first. If P then Q, P then Q, true and true is true, true and true, true and false is false, true and false is false, false and true is true, false and true is true, false and false is true, false and false is true. Then we have to do the if Q then R statement. True and true, true and false. If true then false. If false then true is true. False then false is true. True and true is true. False, true and false is false. False and true is true. False and false is true. So this is column 1, 2, 3. So we have to do column 4 and column 5. It's an and statement, so true and true is true. True and false is false. False and true is false. False and true is false. True and true is true. True and false is false. True and true is true. True and true is true. So we just did the first premise. This is premise 1. Premise 2 is B. So now we have to take premise 1 and premise 2. Premise 2 is P. So we have to look at this column and P. It's an and statement. True and true is true. True and false is false. True and false is false. True and false is false. False and true is false. False and false is false. False and true is false. False and true is false. So these are our 2 premises. This is premise 1 and premise 2. Now this is, let's say column 6. Premise 1 and premise 2, and see if it equals our conclusion, R. So it's an if then. If true then true is true. If false then false is true. If false then true is true. If false then false is true. If false then true is true. We're going from here to here. So false and false is true. False and true is true. False and false is true. It's a tautology, so it's valid. Okay, that was number 5. Draw a valid conclusion from the given premises. If I get robbed, I will go to court. It's just if then. So if P, then Q, I got robbed, then P. Therefore,